Hello, how are you?
Hi, good. I'm super fancy now. I know how to make someone a co-host.
Ooh,
I know.
someone me?
Yeah, and
Boy.
Bill and Danielle. Hi, Danielle. Nice to meet you.
Hi there, nice to meet you too.
Thank you. We're so excited for tonight.
Thanks, I've been looking forward to it.
And
I'm Claire. How are you?
hi, I'm great, Claire. I'm Laura.
Hey,
Nice
Laura.
to meet you.
I'm brand new and moved here recently, but connected with the Surfrider through Jim Hines.
Oh, perfect. Oh, yes, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
I've been using the app endlessly and picking up trash on the beach, and it's good. It's good.
I remember you talked to Julie.
I did talk to Julie and just want to help. Curious. I have to leave at 6:30 because unfortunately we have our Sierra Club meeting at 6:30, but I wanted to join you guys and meet everybody.
6:30, like 2 minutes ago?
Oh, I'm sorry. 7.
I'm like, you're late, Claire.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm in 2 places at one time. Okay. But I wanted to meet everybody and thank you for all your hard work.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So Holly's here. I have to find her. Hi, Holly. And I'm all fancy now because I can admit you. I can't make you a co-host. There's something. What is that? I don't know what that is. Oh, because there's two. Sorry. This is like my learning curve here. Okay, so everyone that's participating tonight is a co-host, so I'm absolving myself from all responsibility for anything. So,
and Laura, I'll just go ahead and hit record. Oh, you're already recording. Somebody's already got it. Great.
yes, I think that's because that was an automatic thing that I had to do. All right, so I think what we're gonna do, Cassie, can you do me a favor? Can you pay attention to who's in the waiting room so that I don't miss that? Thank you. We have such a big night tonight. I wanted to get started right away. I want to have our speakers have a chance to give their information and us to be able to ask questions and allow them to have enough time. So I'm very excited for tonight's meeting. Number one, because it's International Women's Month. Woohoo! And we have a couple of really amazing guest speakers. Danielle's going to be introducing herself and her organization, and then Holly will continue with her presentation and talk about the work that she's been doing. But first, I did want to mention that if you at all want to be receive our newsletter, that to be able to sign up is available on our website, ventura.surfrider.org. It's a really, really long newsletter this month. So normally I would ask the program leaders to give their updates, but because it's such a long newsletter, I'm going to run through it just in the interest of saving time. And so that Claire can hear as much as possible before she has to go to her Sierra Club meeting. So we are on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. I think you guys probably all follow us on some platform. I was wondering, I can't see myself. Okay, hold on, where am I? Speaker view. No. Close enough. So I wanted to give some updates on what we've been up to, and more information on all of these updates can be found in our March newsletter. I wanted to thank John Stith for producing the newsletter. A tremendous amount of time goes into it, and he's on our executive committee, so he's really quite a a big contributor to the chapter and supporting us through doing the newsletter is very significant. One of the things also I wanted to say is that Paul Jenkins, who is a volunteer and basically like the godfather of the chapter, he's giving us an update on the deterioration of the bike path at Surfers Point. He is advocating, he and his team are advocating for its restoration and have been for years. This unique area is in jeopardy and suffering due to the outdated Matilaha Dam, which continues to prevent the downstream flow of much needed sediment. Although the final design for the managed shoreline retreat has been completed, the process currently appears to be on hold due to financial constraints. So he is literally one of the most patient people I know, and I think he'll weather this storm and be there on the other end when the project actually is completed. So Surfrider and a host of other community organizations have been working hard to help bring down the Matilaha Dam in a safe and efficient manner that is good for the entire river and ocean ecosystem. And I know we've been following that one through Paul for a number of years as well. As part of this process, representatives of the Watershed Protection Department of the Ventura County Public Works Agency, Matilaha Coalition, and other Matilaha project partners will update community members and stakeholders on the project's recent developments, including technical studies, environmental analysis, design and implementation plans, and funding efforts. There is a spring 2021 project update that will be shared on Thursday, April 1st, during a special evening meeting of the Ventura River Watershed Council, starting at 6 p.m. on Zoom. The information as far as the Zoom link and the meeting times and everything is in the newsletter, but we're going to have it on social media. We'll be promoting it, and we'll have it on our calendar, our website calendar as well. So anybody that wants to check in on that will have all the information that they need. We have two fundraisers coming up. One, Harry Kelsey and Drew Payan have committed to running the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge. They're running that on starting on March 5th at 8 p.m. And they're using that commitment, that run, as a fundraiser for our chapter. So we're very excited and very grateful to both of them for helping us raise funds. With COVID, our fundraising outside events obviously have, kind of been at a standstill. So these types of fundraisers are greatly appreciated. So please support them and our chapter. We have a blog post on our website, and it includes their Instagram information as well as how to donate. So it's like every 4 hours they run 4 miles for 48 hours. So God bless them. Anyway, the other fundraiser that we have is a membership drive that started yesterday, and it's extended through Earth Day, which is April 22nd. Everyone who signs up for a new membership, renews their current membership, or makes an individual donation to our chapter from yesterday, March 1st to April 22nd, will be entered in a contest to win an amazing Yeti cooler. Generously donated by Angel City Brewery, this cooler can keep up to 16 cans ice cold for hours on end. The lucky winner will be selected on Earth Day. And as I mentioned before, these fundraisers are really crucial to the function of our chapter. It allows us to continue to run our programs as a nonprofit. It's greatly appreciated. We're still encouraging solo beach cleanups, and using the Clean Swell app on our website gives us an idea of how much and what types of trash is picked up, and that documentation is very important. And I want to thank Danielle. I know she has school. She's not here tonight, but I do want to thank her for staying on top of this for us. This past Saturday, the city of Oxnard sponsored a beach cleanup at Ormond Beach, collaborating with the city of Port Hueneme. I was very fortunate to host a group. Their name was FGH. They came out and they worked diligently for 3 hours. There were many other people from the cities of Hueneme and Oxnard, and there were other groups like the Coastal Keepers and Council Member Stephen Gamma's usual Saturday turnout. And even with social distancing, we had a really great crowd, and I'm very, very excited. We got the totals today. We picked up over 6,500 pounds of trash in 3 hours. And yeah, I still am tired actually. So I can see how that can happen. So this month's featured ocean-friendly restaurant is Harvest Cafe. We appreciate that they continue to advocate for sustainable restaurant practices. The owners definitely walk the walk. And look for the utensils upon request only pledge sign at our local restaurants to help support them. And let us know if you know of any restaurants that have this practice already. And if they'd like a sign, we're happy to get them a sign. We want to promote this awareness and help reduce the single-use plastic utensils that have literally exploded since COVID. It's frightening. And our ocean-friendly restaurant certification process is now free. So if someone you know might be interested in participating in the program, or if you are interested in helping to reach out to these restaurants, please email the ocean-friendly restaurant email address at ofr@ventura.surfrider.org. Juan is our OFR program lead, and I want to thank Juan for stepping up and working so hard to ensure that the program continues doing the good work that it does. If you would like to sponsor a Hold On to Your Butt ash can in Port Hueneme or Ventura, please contact Julie Marcial. I know Julie's out there. Hi, Julie. Thank you for all the hard work. Julie's email address is JULIMARCIEL. It's juliemarciel@gmail.com. Julie is our Rise Above Plastics program leader and is asking for members to take photos of discarded plastics and EPS all around Port Hueneme's streets, beaches, and parks to tackle another styrofoam ban ordinance. Please send your pictures to Julie. And if you did not get that email address, Cassie will put it in the chat box with the subject line, Port Hueneme plastic/EPS photos. Thank you, Julie and Joan both. I know Joan's out there for all your hard work and dedication. I truly appreciate what you both do. International Women's Month, right? We're the women in our chapter and the volunteers that do the work, and the men also, but we have some outstanding women that are dedicated and devote a tremendous amount of time to the chapter and the success of the programs. April runs our Blue Water Task Force. And throughout the unpredictable course of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Blue Water Task Force team continued their weekly ocean water testing and provided water quality updates from November 1st to March 31st. These informative email updates gave peace of mind to surfers, swimmers, and everyone else who enjoyed the beach and at times helped them change their plans. Thank you, April, and all of the volunteers that helped this season. We have calls out for volunteers for our Ocean Friendly Garden program. We have a garden at the Ventura Botanical Gardens we're starting to plan. And if you're interested in volunteering for the Ocean Friendly Garden workdays, the Ocean Friendly Restaurant Program Committee, and our Hold On to Your Butts program, please contact Megan at volunteercoordinator@ventura.surfrider.org, and she will put you in touch with the program leader. I also want to thank Debbie Tigel. She's our treasurer and an EC member. Christina Pacetta is our secretary and an EC member. Cassie Rogers, chapter coordinator extraordinaire. Woohoo! She's here, and she's always on point with helping with the chapter with anything we need. And I hope I haven't forgotten any of the other amazing women that help run our chapter. So celebrating International Women's Month, I would like to, I ran through that pretty fast. I'm really sorry I talked really fast, but it's pretty important. I would like to introduce Danielle Lyons, one of the founders of Textured Waves, and her organization was created to propagate the culture and sport of women surfing towards women of color and underrepresented demographics through representation, community, and sisterly camaraderie, supporting integrity, inclusion, and advocating diversity in the water. And I want to thank you, Danielle, for coming tonight. And we have so many questions. So I'm going to ask you to just tell us about your organization, how it got started, why it got started, what you're working on, and then we can open it up for questions after.
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm calling in from my house in Oceanside, North County, San Diego. So I'm a big fan of Ventura. I love C Street and Rincon when it's working. For those of you who may not know me, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, an artist, surfer, and my day job is closed caption transcription for the deaf and hard of hearing. I actually have a very short PowerPoint, if you don't mind. I'm kind of a visual person, so I think
That's
it's
great.
Listen to people.
So now I have to, I don't have to share the screen because you're the co-host.
I'll do it. Yeah.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm gonna get rid of my videos. Didn't mean to mute myself. All right. Oops. Okay. Let me know when it's up.
You're up.
We're good?
Yep.
All right, so this is me. A little collage of my life in 4 images. I am the co-founder of 2 organizations, Textured Waves and One Planet, One People, which One Planet, One People is a collective activation supporting climate action and racial and social equality. And what I'm here to talk about today is Textured Waves. So Textured Waves was created in 2019 by 3 African-American female surfers, as Laura said, to propagate the sport of surfing towards women of color and underrepresented demographics. So we aim to create a new wave of surfers with a fresh perspective and an all-female cast. We feature women of all shades riding the waves on our digital platforms through imagery, film, and in-person surf meetups, mostly pre-COVID. Textured Waves aims to promote women of color in front of and behind the lens. We are trying to normalize diversity in the surf world, and our films have all been produced, directed, and edited by women of color. This is something we're really proud of. We feel that it's important to amplify voices from within the BIPOC community in all stages of production and creation. This uplifts the community we are trying to nurture and builds a culture and a space that historically has left us out of the conversation. So we created this movement because no one else was telling our stories. We curate our own content, work with brands we admire, and tell stories of water women through our own lens on a local and international level. We're invested in growing our global community, and through the power of social media, have a cult following of over 20,000 surfers and community members who agree that surfing is for everybody and representation matters. We're creating an archive of our history and documenting our journey in real time. These are some local West Coast legends. I don't know if you guys recognize all the women in the photos, but from Clockwork Lookout to Andrea Cabuasa, I think that's her on the far left and right, Mary Mills, and then Sharon Schaefer, who was the first African-American professional surfer. We're excited to see what the future holds for the next generation of water women. We know that this will allow them to have access to a shared history, the knowledge that this space belongs to them too, and the confidence to tell their own stories in an authentic way. And here's how you can reach us and follow our social platforms, all that jazz, our website. We also have a community page where we let folks know where they can find resources in all the different surf towns that we know of. And it's still growing, so if you have any resources to share, please let me know. Also, small plug, we're planning to host a retreat in Ventura in September with the hopes that COVID gets a little bit more of a handle on it. And we're looking for a house, so if anybody knows of a rental that will hold up to like 10 people, let me know. And that's it. That's me. I'll stop sharing. And I'm back.
Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you. So I would like to ask you a question, and then we can open it up to other questions. And I know that you were recently involved in the Peace Paddle Out, right?
I was involved in a couple of them. The Unity Paddle Out back in June, and then a recent one just, I guess it was last weekend before last. It's all a blur. I don't even know what day it is today.
I know, right? I'm not as half as busy as you, and I don't know what day it is either. So can you tell us about like what it was like last weekend? Tell us what happened and tell us how important it is for everyone to recognize that something needs to be done to change and to stand up.
Yeah. Well, I think it was important to have that moment. You know, we need to show solidarity and come together as a community to show that we're not going to stand for that kind of behavior in the water. There's a lot of new surfers. I'm sure you guys have noticed the wave of, coronavirus surfers that have taken over. All the local. No,
I'm not
you
su-
haven't noticed.
I'm not sure that everyone knows what happened. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened that caused the paddle out?
Oh, I was just speaking in general terms, just there's a lot of new surfers in general, but the two men involved were surfing at Manhattan Beach Pier, and they had an altercation with some Groms, and a bunch of other people kind of jumped into the conversation and took it upon themselves to kind of get involved in a conversation that had nothing to do with them. And in particular, one guy was really aggressive and just came out of left field and started dropping N-bombs like every 2 seconds. And there was a huge crowd on the pier of people that were watching and listening and saw this go down. And then there was an equally large group of people in the water watching and listening to this all go down. And nobody said anything, like nothing, no allyship, like where's all the black squares on Instagram in the water? We don't have it. So yeah, we decided to take a stand. And One Planet One people reached out to one of the guys, Brick, and we were like, hey, we want to support you. We need to do something. This needs to stop, because there's actually been 2 incidences of the exact same thing happening in the past 2 months in that area.
Wow.
So it's really become a hotspot for racism. And I personally experienced something pretty aggressive up there a couple years ago with this guy pulling my leash, and it was also documented. But we didn't take a stand on either of those occasions, and these things keep happening. So I think, with the Unity Paddle Out and the amount of support that we received from that, it gave us kind of a bit of momentum to be like, hey, we do have the backing of our community, and let's reach out to our allies. So that's what we did. And Rick actually pulled everything together really himself, and just like we were there to support in the end, because he and the other guy, Gage, that were involved, were happy to just do it and make it happen. And we pulled it together within like 2 days. We had about 250 people that showed up on the beach, and wow, we all paddled out, and it was kind of madness having all these people in the line. As you can imagine, I did not bring one of my favorite boards because I was afraid for my life and limbs. I really need to invest in a foamy for days like this. But yeah, I came out unscathed, and it was beautiful to see everybody come together and support these young guys who are newer to surfing. And nobody should be treated that way, but we should especially have empathy for people who are just getting into this sport, that may not know all the nuances. I mean, not that they did anything wrong. This was totally unjustified and out of left field, but we just need to create more of a welcoming environment. Like, surfing has just become so cowboy, and I guess it always has been, but I really feel like that way of doing things should just die a very quick death.
100%. And then I think you might have mentioned your movie at the beginning, but can you tell us a little about the movie?
There's a couple. We're kind of turning into like a mini production company. So we have 3 and a 4th one on the way. We're delivering a new baby on International Women's Day.
Nice.
Yeah, we're very excited. So the most recent one was with Adidas, and before that we did one with Basia. So you can view all of our films on our website on texturedwaves.com. And yeah, the next one's coming next week. Next Monday is, I think, it's International Women's Day. So.
And that's See Us
Yeah.
Now.
The new one is, I can't talk about it yet.
Okay. And so the new one's called I'm a Secret.
It's all a secret. But I'm really excited about it because it's embracing our community in a way that we've never done it before. So I will say that much.
And we can see it on your website, is what you're saying?
You'll be able to follow us. We'll probably drop it on Instagram first. It usually takes, I'm the webmaster, so it usually takes me a minute to remember how to embed things on the website. So I can't guarantee it'll be there on International Women's Day. I'll do my best.
And now I'm going to stop hogging up the questions and open it up to anyone else. If you guys can unmute yourselves, or there's questions in the chat box. I lost my chat box. I'm assuming it's this thing that says more. Here we go. And I don't think we have any questions. Does anybody have any questions for Danielle? Or
I
did
don't have
did I ask them all?
I did just want to compliment your community page on your website. I went to it while I was looking around, and I'm gonna put it in the chat box because it's amazing how many resources you have on there. I think you guys mapped the entire coast of California with these organizations. So thank you for the work you do and for putting that together. It's a great resource.
Definitely. I mean, it's a question we get asked a lot. People are always asking where they can get lessons or which resources are available for their child or for adults too. Like, people just don't know how to get into surfing because it, does seem quite difficult when you don't know. So it's a good landing page for folks to kind of thumb through.
Thank you. Wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for Danielle? Also, too, I mean, you can always share your questions later, and then if somebody thinks of something, we can circle back. So wonderful. Thank you. So continue. I'm sorry.
I had a quick question for you, Danielle. Is there something like concrete or tangible that our chapter could do? Like what would be like a best case scenario for you? Like speaking to us for us to then go and put into action. Do you have anything that you could think of?
In what regard? Just like in life or in
yeah, right. Obviously justice? A little bit.
Talking.
Just like in terms of like showing you were speaking about allyship or solidarity, or like, is there a practice that we could like work to incorporate or to do better outreach, or just anything like that we could like focus on acting on moving forward?
Definitely. I get that question a lot, and I always just tell people, stick to what you know, and start in your local area. Like, if your gift is you're a surf coach, like offer some free coaching to underprivileged youth. Or if you're a photographer, maybe snap some pictures of a Grom that wants to go pro and that can't afford those resources. Like, there's so many ways to be an ally and just to uplift your community. And I think that we all have talents and we're able to share those in some capacity. So if you find a way that you can do that creatively and authentically, I think that's the most powerful way to do it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So
hi, Danielle. This is Debbie,
Hi.
the treasurer. And hi. I'm
Hi,
also
lady.
a sign language interpreter. So really cool about using the closed caption. But I noticed your work. I didn't know if piece behind you, and I didn't. Two strong questions. One, where do you promote your art, and do you use your work for organization on your shirts and
I'm sorry.
other
I don't know if it's
people
just me that you're cutting out for, but I heard something about my art and where do I have it? Is that what you said?
Debbie, you want to put it in the chat? Can you type it in the chat and then we can read it? Because you're cutting out pretty bad. I couldn't understand it either.
Sorry, Debbie.
Yeah, I was trying and I
I do have a website if that's what you were asking. It's saltysoulartworks.com. But I do all of my sales online. And then I also have a gallery right now at Encinitas for Equality, where they have an what was an all Black artist collective for several months. And now it's moved to a multicultural space. It's in Encinitas still on Coast Highway. So if you are down that way, it's where SPY used to be, right next to Ponto Beach and Grandview.
cool.
Encinitas for Equality, but also my website is Salty Soul Artwork, so I'll put that in chat too, so you can find it.
Thank you. So Vince says, great work. My question is, what surfboards do you ride?
Oh, that's my favorite question.
Thank you, Vince.
I ride so many surfboards. Do you want brands or like shapes? Do we want like vague or really descriptive? Because I can geek out on this.
How about vague?
Okay, so I'm mostly longboard. The main reason why is I have pretty severe scoliosis and I need to rest my knees because I need to have that support on my back. So the shortest I go is like a 6'0", and I can only really like go hard at my 6'0" for like an hour, and then I'm like, ugh, and I can't walk the next day. So I mostly ride high performance longboards. I like 2+1s. I like single fins. I also ride a couple of traditional logs. I have a new Michael Takayama board that I'm really loving. I have a Donald Takayama. I have a Stewart CMP that's really fun, more high pro. And then I have a couple fish and mini pintails. But like I said, I don't really like shortboard anymore. I'm getting old and my body's breaking down. So I have to, I like to have fun and I have
bet
on a longboard. So, but then every once in a while I get frisky and, ride something short.
So then there's another question. Thank you for that. There's another question. What's your favorite surf spot in San Diego?
Well, my home break is in Oceanside, and I know people get mad when you give away breaks, but again, like I'm so like cowboys telling me what I can and can't do. So I surf at the harbor, North Jetty specifically, a lot. And I really love Terramar, which is kind of like a more soft, mellow reef break. And I hit Swamis a lot too. It's always good on a swell and it's consistent. But I really go all over. I'm not super loyal to any break. I flirt with everybody. Every break, everybody get married.
That's funny. So you're going to put your websites in the chat.
Yeah.
And Debbie was saying, hang on. She said, do you have your artwork on your organization's t-shirts? Did you do the artwork for you?
We don't have t-shirts for Textured Waves. We are thinking about it, but we really don't want to create any unnecessary waste. So we're trying to be very thoughtful about what we put out. That's why you won't find any tchotchkes or anything on our website yet. We haven't done any branding of anything like that. But we are thinking about it. We just want to be really intentional. I did create a t-shirt with my really good friend, Jennifer, who owns a company called Her Waves, and I'll put that in the chat too. I think it's herwaves.com, but that could be wrong. Just look up Her Waves on Google. But I created a piece of art for her and she made it into a t-shirt. And then I also have prints, which you can still order on her site or online. And yeah, I haven't made anything else as far as merchandise though since then.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think that's it, but I think again we can circle back and ask more questions later if anybody thinks of anything. So now I'd like to introduce Holly Lohuis, and Holly is speaking tonight. I'm very excited about this as well, with two really wonderful, incredible women that have accomplished a lot in their field and personally as well. Holly is a world-renowned marine biologist and Cassie's new favorite human on the planet. and environmental educator. Holly is going to share some of the fascinating work she has performed across the globe with Jean-Michel Cousteau and his marine, I hope I said that right, and his marine conservation organization, Ocean Futures Society. Holly will also highlight some of the wonderful conservation stories she has experienced right here at the Channel Islands National Park, where she spends a few days a week working off the island packers' boats. Holly, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Laura, and
Welcome.
good evening, everybody. And thank you, Danielle. What a beautiful presentation that you just gave. It's an honor to follow you, and I'll just go ahead and share my screen so we could just dive right in here. I am, make sure everybody could see this okay. Let me make sure, hit play. I'm coming to you from the comforts of my bedroom with my dog, and I wish we could all be together at your monthly meetings, but just a big thank you to everybody involved with Surfrider, both in the Ventura chapter and really all the amazing work you do around the world. And as a diver, I am not a surfer. I have tried to surf. I give you so much credit for your beautiful sport, your hobby, your passion. And I hope for those who might not have been on scuba to entice you to take a little dip below the surface of the sea. So as Laura mentioned, I've been working with Jean-Michel Cousteau, and his nonprofit is Ocean Futures Society, just based up in Santa Barbara. And I also work with Island Packers. They are the boat concession for the Channel Islands National Park. Island Packers was really my first job out of college in the early 90s. And it's just great to be back on the boats, and I'll talk about that. And I do some marine science education programs with the Santa Barbara Maritime Museum. So it's just a real honor to just share with you my own personal stories and know that we all have our own intimate connection to the ocean. We all have our favorite moments of when we've been in the ocean and encountered marine life or had a certain experience that we can't wait to share with our friends and family. And I'm sure many of you grew up with the specials of Cousteau, of Jacques Cousteau. And of course, I grew up watching him in the 70s and 80s of the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau. It was the only TV special that I wanted to watch on Sunday night on our television, in which we only had like, what, 10 channels. So it was pretty much my entire family watching the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau. And Jacques Cousteau, who co-invented scuba back in the 40s, 1943, really opened our eyes to the fact that we live on this amazing water planet. And this beautiful quote of his really just kind of captures it all, that we all have that sense of wonder every time that we're in the water, looking at the water, or under the water. So my desire of learning about the ocean started at a young age. I grew up in Sacramento, landlocked, so I never saw the ocean on a daily basis, but we did vacation over in a place called the Sea Ranch, north of San Francisco, north of Bodega Bay. And really just intrigued by the tide pools and just the diversity and beauty of the animals. I knew there was this amazing underwater world out there beyond the horizon. I did a 5th grade report on wanting to grow up and be a oceanographer, deep sea explorer like Dr. Sylvia Earle. So she was really my childhood hero, who I still completely admire today. I also grew up when Jaws came out. I was not even 10 years old. I was 8 years old, so 1975. So I'm aging myself here. But when Jaws came out, it really had an impact of all the young kids around the world. In fact, I hear stories today of people who were so afraid to even take a shower after Jaws came out. So we're afraid that a shark was going to get us no matter where we went, even if we looked at the ocean. So I had a lot to learn, and I just want to take you right underwater, because my career started right here locally in Southern California. But in the last 25 years, I have been working with Jean-Michel Cousteau, the oldest son of Jacques Cousteau, exploring all around the world. And Jean-Michel really is extremely passionate about speaking from the heart, where he has seen in his own personal lifetime a pretty major degradation of the oceans that are happening on a global scale. So coral reefs are sort of our canaries in the coal mine when we look at the changes that are happening in the ocean today. So to be able to dive on some of these beautiful coral reefs, I should say this footage was from 10 years ago. And we know even in the last 10 years, a lot has happened to our coral reefs and our world's oceans. So really just to kind of highlight the fact that my biggest fear I've been able to overcome, and that is sharks. And I seek every opportunity to be in the water with sharks. And I've had an opportunity to dive with a lot of different sharks around the world. So what I'd like to do in our short time together is kind of take you all around the world to really appreciate the fact that we live on this amazing water planet. We all know that over 70% of the surface of our planet is covered by ocean, but 90% of the living space where plants and animals could thrive is in the ocean. It's under the surface of those amazing waves that you love to surf. Is this incredible diversity of life. So with Jean-Michel, continuing the legacy of his late father, Jacques Cousteau, we continue to produce television specials and documentaries. And I just want to show you a little preview of a documentary that came out a couple of years ago, and it was an IMAX film. So as you watch this, just imagine the imagery in 3D and on a 100-foot screen. So we are working with just some very talented cinematographers to really capture the beauty, the fragility, and some of the smaller animals within the ocean. So let's just dive into a nice little preview. And I should say, oh, by the way, this IMAX film in which I'm the co-star with Jean-Michel, it's narrated by my childhood hero, Dr. Sylvia Earle. So I just love hearing her voice. You won't hear her voice here, but I've saved that for the very end. So anyway, so let's just enjoy a little preview of Jean-Michel Cousteau's Secret Ocean. So I promise I'll save for the very end a little closing sequence of that film. And we filmed Secret Ocean in some of the most beautiful coral reef ecosystems of the world in Fiji, Bahamas, Papua New Guinea. And as we really highlighted the fact that these incredible coral reef ecosystems is where we find over 25% of the diversity of marine life is within less than 0.1% of our ocean is on these coral reefs. So these reefs are these amazing underwater ecosystems. That's a good friend of mine, Lottie, who just joined. So as we explore these beautiful coral reefs, we could look at simple principles of nature, of sustainability. Oh, Cassie, for some reason I'm not host anymore. Maybe it's not letting me advance.
Oh, Laura, I'm gonna throw that one to you. I think you got the host button.
For some reason, it was not advancing after we let the last person in here with Lottie. Yeah, I can't even do anything right now.
Huh.
I can't escape either.
All right, technical difficulties. 1 second. Let's do this.
I'll find a pretty picture at least, though. think my computer is not allowing me to do anything.
Laura,
Looks
can
like-
you make her the host and then, or take her off as the host and make her the host again?
This again. I'm gonna host it. I've been disabled.
Oh, okay.
I'm still disabled.
Laura, since you're the host, I think you have to go to participants and then click Holly. There you go. Okay.
Okay, I see that. Thank you. Okay, excellent. Let's see where we were right here. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Perfect. So coral reefs, really I could give an entire hour presentation just on coral reefs alone. So I've spent a lot of time. I've lived in Fiji for 1.5 years. I've worked at a small eco resort as a marine biologist. I also witnessed a major bleaching episode back in 2000 in Fiji. So we know that these animals are extremely fragile, very sensitive to changes of water temperature. We also know that coral reefs, where we find over species that depend on the habitat of coral reefs, and as I mentioned, 25% of the diversity of the world's oceans found in coral reefs. The success of this underwater ecosystem is all dependent on a relationship. And this relationship is between a plant and an animal. So when you look at a picture like this, a lot of the people think maybe corals are just colorful rocks, but coral is a tiny little animal related to sea anemones, and they're farmers. They have plants that live inside their tissue. And these single cell algae called zooxanthellae. And it's the coral that provides the space habitat for the plant, and the plant does all work. It photosynthesizes, making food for the coral. So most of the food for the coral to succeed comes from partnership of a plant living inside it. And the corals that make all the rest of the world. In fact, corals, these tiny little animals, smaller than your fingernail, makes reefs that we can see from outer space. So they are extremely impressive in their engineering ability to make these incredible reefs of the world. And at night, they become hunters. So as I mentioned, they're related to sea anemones. So they do extend their tentacles into the water column to collect plankton. But most of their food comes from their garden, and their garden are these single cell algae inside their body. I think it's so important for us to understand this relationship, because all life is about building relationships. And it's because of these relationships that we see these incredible symbiotic relationships that really have given us this diversity and the stability of the oceans that sustain all life. And I really have come to appreciate that in the travels that I've done with Jean-Michel Cousteau, because we've seen some pretty major changes in the world's oceans in just the small little period of time that I've been on this planet, 50 years. So to really kind of go back underwater, I want to take you diving, and I want you to all help me find a pygmy seahorse. So everybody look. See a pygmy seahorse? There it is. This is from Papua New Guinea. And we all fell in love with pygmy seahorses after this opportunity to dive to 106 feet to find this beautiful little animal. And I like to share that short little sequence because seahorses are super cool. I'm sure many of you have seen my octopus teacher on Netflix. Like, we all have kind of our favorite animals in the ocean. After the experience of diving with pygmy seahorses in Papua New Guinea, I'm a pretty big fan of seahorses. There are 47 different species of seahorses found around the world. 7 or so are considered pygmy. In fact, there's new species still being discovered. Pygmy seahorses were only discovered since the 1960s and early 70s, when a piece of sea fan or Gorgonian was brought up to the surface, and biologists were looking in a microscope and saw the first pygmy seahorse. So we've really only discovered them in very recent times. What we know about pygmy seahorses as they are monogamous. Most of them are committed and they mate for life. And what's really cool about seahorses in general, they are the only animal in the animal kingdom in which it's the male who gives birth. So the female transfers her unfertilized eggs to the male, and the male fertilizes the eggs, incubates the eggs, and then gives birth to baby seahorses. So it's a beautiful relationship. And I just want to say with pygmy seahorses, they're only found on coral reefs around the world, mostly in the Indo-Pacific region. But this is what we're doing to the home of the pygmy seahorse and to our entire oceans. And I know I am talking to a crowd, a group here tonight in our intimate environments of our own comforts of our home, that we get it. We totally understand what's happening to our world's oceans with the increase of plastic. This is a real photograph. This is not photographed. It's been viral on social media. And there's no denying, maybe not so much us in Ventura or Southern California, we're a little more sensitive to the amount of plastic. But as humanity, as humans, we are obsessed with plastic. And there's no doubt we're even more obsessed because of the pandemic that we've all had to undergo this last year. But unfortunately, this simple material of a not long-lasting material that has become so part of our lifestyle, especially post-World War II, the growth of plastic in our lifestyle is exponentially grown. And much of this plastic is ending up in the most remote places of the world. So I'd like to take you on expedition again with Jean-Michel Cousteau to the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands, where we had an amazing month's expedition filming on some of these, and we'll go back to the map, some of these tiny little islands. We all are familiar with the Hawaiian Islands, and I'm sure many of you have been to Hawaii, but a lot of people don't realize that the state of Hawaii extends 1,200 miles northwest above the main Hawaiian Islands. And this 1,200-mile chain of islands are atolls, submerged reefs. Of course, we're familiar with Midway Island from World War II. But around these islands are some extremely healthy coral reefs, 18 different species of seabirds, over 14 million birds of 18 different species. In fact, just in this photograph, there's 5 different species of seabirds on one bush, all nesting. So pretty amazing place of the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands. The Laysan Albatross, 90% of their population nests on the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands. In fact, the oldest banded seabird is a Laysan Albatross, and her name is Wisdom. This isn't Wisdom, but Wisdom looks just like this. And she, at the age of 70, is incubating her egg this season. In fact, the egg just hatched. So she's had a couple mates, but she has completely continued to live and is the oldest living banded seabird in the world. And Laysan albatross feed out at sea. They feed on squid and fish eggs, and they travel hundreds of miles in search of the perfect meal for their chick. Unfortunately,
next stop, Maro.
Unfortunately, a lot of the food they bring back is non-digestible material. But before I show that, I want to take you underwater with Jean-Michel and myself to the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands, where you're going to see the beautiful coral reefs. And then at the end, you're going to see how I've been able to overcome my fear of sharks and have this incredible free diving experience with a couple hundred Galapagos sharks. This is a short sequence filmed from our PBS series that came out about 10 years ago called Voyage to Kure. And here we were out on this research vessel for over a month out at sea, the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands, and every opportunity going under the surface of the water was incredible, as you're going to see in this short little clip. Well, and I should say this is narrated by Pierce Brosnan. You're going to recognize it.
Next stop, Maro Reef. Only an acre above water, but a coral maze of nearly 500,000 acres underwater. The reef system below them is the largest in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, but it's also a
Oh, did I do that? Sorry, everybody. I barely touched my mouth.
Next stop, Marrow Reef. Reef system below them is the largest in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, but it's also a complex configuration dangerous for research vehicles to navigate. As a result, Marrow's immense reefs remain little studied.
Would you like me to serve you a drink?
Jean-Michel's a practical joke. Oh, it's plain joke.
Perfect another.
Marrow Reef, according to reports, may offer one of the best opportunities to observe large numbers of sharks. For Jean-Michel and his trusted dive partner, Holly, shark encounters are routine. The possibility of meeting large numbers of sharks is something special. It is not sharks that greet them, but another crowd of inquisitive jacks. Little disturbed, rising from ancient volcanoes, coral reef ecosystems of the Northwest Hawaiian Islands are among the oldest in the tropical Pacific. They're also among the most northerly. Delicate reef creatures that look like living artwork flourish precariously at the boundary of much colder waters to the north. Light cables, strung down from the surface, permit close inspection of the miniature communities, thriving in only a few inches of bottom rock. And there's a momentary glimpse of sharks. It's called a blue dragon nudibranch, a tiny sea slug with gills like a feathered boa. Crown of thorns starfish, which feeds on coral and, in occasional swarms, has destroyed reefs elsewhere. Finally, Holly spots what they'd hoped to see, a pack of sharks. It appears they've been hanging back as if intimidated by the wall of jacks between them and the divers. Galapagos sharks are considered dangerous, but they rarely attack humans, and they generally arch their backs as a warning display. The divers keep alert, but see no signs of aggression.
Holly? Holly?
One time's not over yet.
She's gonna dive again. Oh, here she goes. Here she goes.
A biologist and a naturally gifted diver, Holly seems in the midst of Galapagos sharks, like a child reluctant to leave the playground of her dreams.
Wow. That was amazing. They would disappear 5 minutes or so, and then we look down and you see, like right now, all the dark shadows coming up. And they're coming straight towards the surface like this. And that free dive down right towards them. And one of them, I was literally almost on top. I could have touched it. And it didn't know I was right there. How's that from all that residual nitrogen? It's like a Coca-Cola bottle. So get that on camera.
So how many of you have been able to live your childhood dream? Definitely mine. My fear of sharks has been overcome. And to really go right back into the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands, because we just fall in love when diving with these incredible table corals, beautiful fish of every color of the rainbow, and to have sharks and big trevallies or uluas on with us on every dive, fortunately, is what we saw when we stepped foot on the island. This is a true open wilderness. The Northwestern Hawaiian Islands today are the largest marine protected areas in the United States, third largest in the world. And thanks to President Bush and then expanded by President Obama, we are very fortunate in the United States to have a big portion of marine protected areas. But on these remote islands is a true testament to the fact of the tremendous impact we are having on our world's oceans. And even though we celebrated with such beauty below the surface, the reality is we could protect certain areas around the world, but humanity needs to change our lifestyle. And our desire, our dependence, our obsession with single-use plastic is honestly choking our world's oceans. And to see it firsthand, this was a year before my child was born. It has changed my life forever. And to be able to pull out toothbrush and plastic toys and bottle caps from Laysan Albatross, in which we now know there's a bird that's 70 years old who's endured all this tremendous impact of plastic in the ocean, gives me a sense of hope. But this all came from inside one single bird. And as we started to collect items from inside Laysan Albatross, we knew it was a global issue. It's not a one country problem. Jean-Michel ended up collecting cigarette lighters on one walk around Laysan Island. And you can see from the cigarette lighters, there's multiple languages coming from the entire North Pacific. And I think it's that global realization that we need to work hard to minimize our single-use plastic. It impacts today well over 1,200 species in the ocean, at least 1 million, or I should say 1,200 different species, but 1 million different animals on a yearly basis are entangled, ingest, and die from plastic pollution. We know much of the plastic that we use today is because of our petroleum, our desire to search for continuous source of fossil fuels in the ocean. In fact, the oil we use today, it takes about 10% of the oil we drill for to make our plastic. And of our plastic today, 50% of it is considered single use. So that's a lot of oil that we need to make our plastics. And we are looking for oil in some of the most remote places of the world, from the Arctic to the deep sea. And we were in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010 during the Deep Horizon oil spill. We were some of the first divers in the water. And to be there with Jean-Michel and see the first oil come ashore in the wetlands and marsh areas. I live here in Carpinteria, right at the Carpinteria Salt Marsh. It would be completely heart-wrenching if this was our own backyard. But this is what we witnessed, and what we try to do is to use the photography and the cinematography to tell the story of the animals, of their suffering at the hands of our irresponsible use of raw materials from nature. Always focusing on the stories of hope. We do encounter amazing people that are working extremely hard, even the pelicans and all the wildlife from this oil spill and all the degradation around the world. I always have to focus, we have to focus on hope. It's why we're still alive and wake up every day. But since we've been alive since the 80s, we've seen a major loss of healthy ecosystems in our world's oceans, especially coral reefs. Massive global coral reef bleaching has only happened since the 80s. And what we know is coral bleaching is a breakup of that relationship that I highlighted. When the oceans warm because of the burning of fossil fuels and the warming of our climate and the warming of our oceans, the coral animal is stressed. And when it's stressed, it kicks out its roommate, the algae. The algae then no longer is making the food for the coral, and the coral starves. And what we see is a transparency of the skeleton of the coral. That's how fragile the relationship is of the success of coral reefs. So I think when we start to really realize that we are the primary factor that's causing this degradation, it empowers us to know that there are things we could do every day to stop this decline. And the empowerment of people is tremendous. Humans are incredible when faced with crisis. We've seen it this last year, and I think we will continue to see it in the environmental movement of protecting our world's oceans. Because when we dove in the Florida Keys and talking to coral reef biologists, they're pretty depressed in their own research and in their own studies. They've seen a decline of the staghorn and elkhorn coral by 99% in just the Florida Keys. So it's a big issue. And I just want to go back to our cute little pygmy seahorse, because this is the only home that they have are the coral reefs. So as we look at the degradation of our world's oceans, we know there's iconic species of the polar bears are giving us a big red flag, changing us, telling us that Arctic is changing, of course. We worked up in the Arctic in the years of 2007 and 2008, working with biologists. Dr. Greg Okori-Kaur is a geneticist. He was putting satellite tags on beluga whales to try to understand the changing ice and the impact it was having on beluga whales. And this was another 1-hour PBS special that we produced called Sea Ghosts. So the scientists are using these amazing animals literally as oceanographic equipment to tell us of our changing planet. And if we look at the simple things we could do on a daily basis, besides minimizing plastic, minimizing our carbon footprint, also most importantly, supporting sustainable seafood. I highlight that because where we live in California, we have some of the most sustainable seafood options really in the world. And I think when consumers realize that the impact that most industrial fleets have on their global ocean, we realize that we are fishing our oceans to extinction. On average, most industrial fisheries on a global scale, there's a tremendous amount of bycatch, ocean wildlife that's being killed for targeted species. So I think with this understanding, I like to, so every time somebody comes in, I'm sorry, Danielle, I've lost, or Cassie, I've lost my ability.
Laura, can you, since you're
Yeah, that's so interesting that that does that, isn't that? I don't know why.
I feel like someone who accepted it. I don't know what I'm doing. It's gotta be me.
Oh no, it's working. I'm good. I think these are statistics I think we've all seen on the internet, and this is all science-based. Anybody could send me a message. I'm happy to provide scientific papers and journals that support this. But we've lost 90% of the big fish in the ocean. That's pretty alarming. We know that most of our global fisheries are exploited. And I think the bycatch is a tremendous loss of amazing wildlife that most people have no idea. And of course, if we continue at this trend, we could lose most of our fisheries by 2050. Simple things we do every day. So this is an incredible app on your phone, understanding where your seafood comes from, supporting sustainable fisheries, because once again, we have some amazing sustainable fisheries right off our own coast. But what we do need are more marine protected areas. Science has shown that as we protect certain areas in the ocean, we have a pretty quick return on our investment. It's like playing the stock market. You protect certain areas of the ocean and you're going to get a pretty quick return of increase of biomass, of activity, and a spillover. And here within the Channel Islands National Park, we have one of the best networks of marine reserves. And it's because of this incredible ecosystem right off our own coast, this mixing of these major oceanic currents, cold water from the north, warm water from the south, mixing around the 4 northern Channel Islands. We have an incredible productivity off our own coast that supports some very important commercial and sport fisheries. We also have a very large network of marine reserves, 13 marine protected areas that protect roughly about 21% of the waters within the national park and the National Marine Sanctuary. 21%, that's a high percentage. On a global scale, we protect less than 2% in fully protected marine protected areas. Some people say around 7 or 8%, and those are more like conservation areas. So that's good. But fully protected around the world, it's honestly only 2%. But around the Channel Islands, it's 21%. And since 2003, and what we've seen, a study that just came out from UC Santa Barbara in January, is these incredible underwater ecosystems of the giant kelp forest that supports over 800 different species. Our second largest fishery is the spiny lobster. And where fishermen along the Santa Barbara coast and where I live in Carpinteria, they did lose about 30% of the area where they like to put their fishing gear. They lost 30% of where they fish, but in the last 6 years, their fisheries, their catch has increased 225%. This study just came out end of January. So we've seen a tremendous impact or tremendous increase of our success of fisheries with these marine protected areas because they act as nurseries. And fish, they continue to reproduce. If we allow fish to grow up and get big, they have more babies, and those babies are a lot healthier and succeed and spill over into surrounding areas. So marine protected areas are so beneficial. And what's really cool about the Channel Islands, it's one of the best hidden secrets of Southern California. So I do get to spend half my time, I'd say a few days a week, out on the Island Packer boats out to the Channel Islands. Amazing crew that I get to work with, very talented, wonderful captain and crew. And I started working out at Island Packers in 1991, just out of college at UC Santa Barbara, where I studied marine science and started working as a marine educator out on the Island Packer boats. And in the last 30 years, what I personally witnessed around the Channel Islands is pretty significant. When I first was going out to a place like Santa Cruz Island, there were still pigs and sheep eating away at the fragile plant communities, and there weren't really a lot of whales. But in just the last 30 years, from the marine protected areas to this just a beautiful underwater ecosystem that supports animals as small as nudibranchs to whales as big as the blue whale, we've seen such an increase. And just one photograph here just shows you the diversity from common dolphins to California sea lions to humpback whales. Back in the 90s, when I started working on the boats, there were maybe a few hundred humpback whales that we would see on an annual basis. Now there's well over 2,000 plus humpback whales in the North Pacific in 5 different populations. There's, and of course, people who visit Hawaii every month see the same increase that we're seeing here in the Santa Barbara Channel. And we know with the increase of these great whales, they are helping to mitigate climate change. These whales are incredible ocean engineers when it comes to their diving ability, their migration and cross entire oceans. From our humpbacks go from Central America up to the Southern California here on an annual basis. And that migration provides this incredible mixing of the water, and the mixing and the nutrients help in the productivity of phytoplankton, plant plankton, that is the base of this incredible food chain. We've seen the great comeback of the Pacific gray whales. They are the only whales that have been delisted from the Endangered Species Act, and today are numbered what they believe back above their pre-hunting number. So all the great whales were hunted to the brink of extinction. Gray whales have been protected since the 40s, humpbacks since the 80s. We've hunted humpbacks until the mid 80s. Gray whales here just to show you, we're on our northbound migration now. We're out whale watching every day. And these gray whales spend the winter months down in Baja to have their babies. But where they want to eat is way above Alaska, up in the Bering and Chukchi Sea. So with their newborn calves, only a couple months old, they make this incredible annual migration of 5,000 to 6,000 miles one way up the California coast. And for us, it takes them right through the kelp forests of Southern California here. So it's a great opportunity this time of year to head out and watch for whales. But gray whales, even though they've been delisted, we are experiencing right now a decline in their numbers. So just recently, the scientists have declared that gray whales are undergoing what's called a unusual mortality event. And we hope it's just the natural fluctuation in the population, but some scientists are worried that it might be directly related to a decline in their food up in the Arctic. So it's why we need to continue to really study these animals and appreciate what we have right off our own coast here. Here's a look of a blue whale, still critically endangered. Came right up to us, right off the east end of Santa Cruz Island. We had a handful of blue whales fed there for about 3 weeks, end of the summer, this last summer. It was an amazing summer of blue whales for us in the Santa Barbara Channel.
Coming right at us.
And this blue whale came right under the boat.
It's going to go under the boat.
So when I started working on the Island Packer boats in the 90s, we rarely saw blue whales. Now we're seeing blue whales pretty much in the spring, summer, and fall. And I should say there were some blue whale sightings today, just further south of us. Yesterday on the whale watching boat, we had a fin whale. This picture was taken years ago, but fin whales are another endangered baleen whale. And we're seeing more and more fin whales also right off our own coast. The comeback of the great whales is a great conservation success story. There's still a lot of threats facing their success today, and one of the bigger threats here for the whales in the Santa Barbara Channel is ship strikes. So a lot of consideration on how to minimize this impact by convincing ships to slow down and move them further offshore, because the channel is a great place for a lot of feeding whales. One of the most common questions I get on the whale watching boats is if we ever see orcas. And we do. We do get to see killer whales on the Santa Barbara Channel. A lot of people know killer whales from the headline news of the endangered killer whales up in Puget Sound, of the southern resident killer whales of the pods J, K, and L. They are resident fish-eating orcas. They primarily feed on Chinook salmon, and their prey is definitely in decline, which is severely impacting the health of this population of orcas. Off our coast here, though, we have the marine mammal-eating orcas. And these transient orca populations are doing very well in the Pacific Northwest. And they're very well studied, a wonderful killer whale project by a few biologists that we like to share our photographs with, because they give us the inside story of the families of orcas. And when we saw this one family and shared this photograph with a biologist to the south of us down in LA, Alyssa Schulman-Yaniger, she is very passionate about the orcas of California. And she told us this is Star. She's a matriarch male with her youngest calf, Comet. And we saw Star's entire family, including her oldest son is Orion. Younger brother of Orion is Bumper. And Bumper has a very distinct dorsal fin, bend in his dorsal fin. And here's the whole family swimming under the Island Packer boat last January. I'm just on the stern of the boat. The two brothers, the two males, passed right underneath us. And as you're going to see, we're right off Anacapa Island. So next video, here comes Orion.
Here they are. Yep.
That's the older brother. Here comes his younger sister, Comet. There's the mom, Star. And here comes Bumper. So right off Anacapa in the Santa Barbara Channel. We're very lucky to have orcas that are so well known by the biologists that when we share this video and photographs with them, we really get to learn a lot about the secret society of orcas. Extremely complex. They live in a matriarchal society, very socially dependent on their mother. And orcas are the largest dolphin in the dolphin family. And here in the Santa Barbara Channel, we have about a third of the species of whales and dolphins spotted around the world have been sighted here in the Santa Barbara Channel. So on Saturday, heading out to Santa Cruz Island, we had Pacific white-sided dolphins. And these dolphins love to surf. In fact, crew over the PA will say they're really the ultimate surfers. So I don't want to give any offense to anybody here, but they're pretty impressive as these dolphins race over to the boat and just love to bow ride in the pressure wake that we make, as well as in our stern wake. And just to give you an idea, this is our boat ride home from Santa Cruz Island. This gives you a sense of the biomass of life in our backyard of the Santa Barbara Channel. This is well over 1,000 common dolphins in a feeding frenzy. All the western gulls and California brown pelicans, different species of shearwaters, all feeding because these common dolphins are so supreme in their hunting and bringing the fish up towards the surface. And these visitors to the Channel Islands National Park with that experience, their life has been changed forever. And that's what these islands provide. They're outdoor classrooms, places to seek open space and wilderness areas, perfect classroom for outdoor education, very important research that's conducted on the Channel Islands to really bring back some of these animals that have been directly impacted. Some species are gone forever. On Santa Barbara Island, we had an endemic species, a songbird, that has now been extinct. So we know these island ecosystems are very fragile. Bald eagle population crashed for about 50 years on the Channel Islands because of DDT. And DDT was a pesticide we used to use extensively back in the 50s, and it impacted not only bald eagles, but also on Anacapa Island. The brown pelican population crashed in the 60s and early 70s. So from this research, we realized that these islands are indeed connected to our mainland activity. But as we recognize the fragility of island ecosystems and the fact that there's really unique plants and animals found nowhere else around the world, it comes with an importance of conservation. Anacapa had invasive species of black rats that were successfully eradicated in the early 2000s. And it has protected some of the rarer seabirds. In fact, all the seabird populations. In fact, there's 13 different species of seabirds on our Channel Islands. And the very cute little Scripps murrelet has increased 60% in just the last 20 years because of the removal of the black rats on Anacapa. So these Channel Islands really become a flagship for other island ecosystems and restorations around the world. So my hope is to convince all of you to love Western gulls by the end of my presentation, because look how that's pretty darn adorable, huh? You go out to Anacapa Island and you walk down the nature trail in Anacapa, and this is your guide. So it's a protective mommy or daddy, but 3 very hungry chicks. As Anacapa Island supports 10,000 seagulls, Western gulls. It is the largest nesting area for this species of seabird. And I know seabirds, or I should say Western gulls, don't get a lot of respect on the mainland. They're really good at going through our garbage. But you walk through their rookery on Anacapa Island and it just gives you a greater appreciation of just their ability to survive and to see the next generation successfully succeed. These islands are also a very important part of our California history. Over 150 years of ranching history, sheep and cattle on the Channel Islands. But these introductions of non-native animals have had a tremendous impact on the fragile plant life. But back in the 90s, we used to go and feed the orphan lamb and catch the little piglets. Fortunately, today, all the non-native animals have been successfully removed or eradicated, and it's been a great restoration of the fragile 150 or so species of plants and animals found nowhere else around the world, but just on these islands. But because of 100+ years of these pigs specifically, and the lack of bald eagles, the golden eagles moved in. They impacted our largest land mammal. They fed on island foxes. And in the 90s, we saw a quick decline in the success of island foxes, where they were on the brink of extinction in the early 2000s. The biologists moved in quickly with the Channel Islands National Park and many different agencies, institutions, and Nature Conservancy working together. They captively bred the island foxes on the Channel Islands. They reintroduced bald eagles, They removed the non-native golden eagles. And in succeeding, we have now brought back and restored this fragile island ecosystem. Peregrine falcons and bald eagles are nesting successfully now. Island foxes are really back up to very healthy numbers. We see them almost every day that we land out there. Pigs have been eradicated, rats have been eradicated, and the golden eagles were removed, not killed, but removed, relocated to Northern California. So a lot of great success in our own amazing Channel Island Park. And to be out there with visitors is just a great opportunity to remind us indeed of our fragile planet that we live on, and the fact that we're losing a tremendous amount of biodiversity around the world. Science guesstimate we could lose a species in the next 10 years. So we all work to do to really dignify different species and habitats and island ecosystems, and even enjoy island foxes. You make sure you zip up your tent because they'll visit you at night looking for food. So they really rule the islands out there. And just to appreciate what's in our own backyard. So I obviously could talk about the Channel Islands National Park. This is San Miguel, where I do some volunteer work as a national park ranger, and I spent weeks out there, 1 week in September and 1 week for this last year, leading guided hikes on San Miguel Island. So we are all a part of this incredible web of life that we call this water planet. And as we play this game in a lot of our outdoor education programs with Jean-Michel Cousteau's Ambassadors of the Environment, we teach the leaders of tomorrow that we need to dignify all species, because we all contribute to the diversity of this incredible planet. And as we undermine this diversity of biodiversity, it weakens that web of life that supports all of humanity. So it takes us all, and every day the Island Packer crew, whether we're picking up Mylar balloons that we see pretty much every single day in the Santa Barbara Channel and out at the Channel Islands, we need to remember, as these dolphins remind us, we go on a little meditative swim on the bow with common dolphins and think about the simple things that we could do on a daily basis to really ensure the safety and the health of their ocean home, and the fact that the ocean sustains all of this planet. So minimizing our use of single-use plastic, minimizing our carbon footprint, supporting sustainable sea is just some of the really simple things that we could do to ensure that we'll always have common dolphins in our Santa Barbara Channel. So my hope is to really instill that sense and overcome my fear of sharks, because with that intimate connection, as I know I'm talking to an audience of surfers and ocean lovers and ocean advocates, we seek that saltwater experience, and it's really with our heart that really dictates our future. And the more of us that really could see beneath the surface of the sea and appreciate these incredible underwater ecosystems, I really hope that we think about what we are passing on to future generations, because this is a great quote, that indeed we did not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we're just it from our children. And it all starts with education. Of what we appreciate, what we understand is what we're going to conserve and what we love. So this is my future. He's now 16. He's driving. Beware. Working hard to protect. And my closing, and I know I have minutes left to share with Dr. Celia Earle and her narration of the closing Jean-Michel Cousteau's Secret Ocean. And if Jean-Michel and myself, we're going to swim off into the abyss, critically endangered hammerhead shark. And Jean-Michel so poetically says that we are in this together. It is really our future. So let's enjoy my heroes, Dr. Sylvia Earle and Joe Cousteau, finally underwater with them, both of them together. It was definitely a dream come true. And enjoy the closing scene of Jean-Michel Cousteau's Secret Ocean in 3D. Everybody put your glasses on and enjoy.
It's protecting the large animals, but also those that are intricately small and fragile.
We are the newcomers in this ocean world, the unknown intruders, and we've fallen in love, even with what we once feared, like sharks. People protect what they love, and everything is connected. So when we protect the ocean, we protect all life, including ourselves. It's up to us, in the sea and on land, to cherish this ocean planet as we enter the future together.
So Jean-Michel Clouseau's nonprofit, as I mentioned, Ocean Futures Society. So it is oceanfutures.org, a great way to find out all the great work of Jean-Michel and the education programs. Of course, so fortunate to have one of the least visited national parks right off the Ventura coast. So hopefully soon the visitor center will open up in Ventura Harbor. But to really appreciate the fact that it's the easy boat ride out to some of the best hidden secret of Southern California, the Channel Islands. And Island Packers is just a wonderful company based in Ventura, family owned, third generation that's involved in the company. So just a big thank you, Surfrider Ventura chapter, for all that you do. Little photo credit to all the great people I've worked with, and I just appreciate every opportunity to share ocean stories to hopefully empower us all, that it's really up to us to think of the simple things we could do to best protect this incredible water planet that we all share together. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, everybody. And happy to answer any questions, knowing that I've taken a big chunk of your nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you. That's amazing. I want to give a shout out to Joy Downing Riley. She's out there. She's the one that recommended you as a speaker for our meeting, and I'm very grateful that that she is now one of our core volunteers, and want to shout out to her for International Women's Day. Thank you, Joy, for everything that you're doing for our chapter and for suggesting Holly as our speaker. So thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Yeah, thank you.
So questions. Everybody's thanking, and thanking. It was very inspirational, a little overwhelming with going from one spectrum of amazing and wonderful and precious and stunning to a bird with 20 pieces of plastic in it. So you've said it very well, explaining our responsibility. So we have a
yeah, I do see a question from Mark.
Yeah.
Great question, Mark. Yeah, so I didn't really explain that, but bald eagles are fish eating. So they were impacted by DDT because DDT was washed into the ocean environment via like Santa Monica, where there was a big DDT manufacture plant, and Montrose. And we still see the impacts today. There's a great LA Times article about some of the barrels that have been dumped off of Catalina Island that were recently discovered. So DDT is a synthetic pesticide. As it was in the ocean, it bioaccumulated up the food chain. So it impacted from pelicans to bald eagles. They're fish-eating birds. And it is endocrine disruptor. So it impacted the ability of the female birds to lay eggs that were thick enough to support the weights of adult birds. So Rachel Carson, some amazing biologists who gave us that alarm decades ago. So bald eagles of the Channel Islands were directly impacted because of their diet on fish from DDT.
I remember that. I read that article. It was incredible.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it just shows the legacy of us using the ocean as a dump site, sort of that out of sight, out of mind. We've thrown a lot in the ocean. And even DDT that was banned in the early 70s, Montrose, the corporate company that had to pay millions of dollars that helped in the restoration of the Channel Islands, was very instrumental in the restoration. We're still seeing the impact of what they dumped decades ago in the waters off of Southern California.
Anybody have any other questions?
I have a question, if I may ask.
Sure.
Hi, Holly. Thank you so much for your presentation. This is actually my first Surfrider general meeting, so thank you for making it so influential and powerful. But I was curious if you had any specific college or post-college experiences that helped you propel towards your dream job. I'm currently a first-year college student, and I'm really getting into marine biology, especially with this presentation now. And so I was wondering maybe if you could give advice or just elaborate on your experience.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Samantha. Well, keep up to your studies. We need a lot of marine scientists out there, so thank you. As I mentioned, I grew up landlocked, so as soon as I had an opportunity to be down at UC Santa Barbara, I was teaching swimming lessons at a dive shop in Santa Barbara that gave me an access to then start diving and really just appreciating what's in my own backyard. So I don't have any graduate. I went getting a bachelor's in marine science or aquatic biology from UC Santa Barbara, working right out at the Channel Islands. And to me, that was an incredible platform to work on the boats, get some really good skills working on the island packer boats as a deckhand, doing narrated talks on the PA, leading guided hikes, spent a lot of time with school kids out on the island. It really kind of opened up my eyes of my desire to continue in the realm of education. When I started working with Jean-Michel Cousteau, it was really because of my diving experience at the islands that I then was hired by Jean-Michel. And my first job was in the tropics, which I had really no coral reef experience. But when you understand kind of basic underwater ecosystems, and you understand the class of animals of invertebrates and fish, you could really then take that understanding, that foundation, and apply it to most underwater ecosystems. So even though they're a little hesitant to hire me because I had no coral reef experience, I was able to convince them of my knowledge of kelp forest ecology and working on the boats, that I was hired to go to Fiji to a small eco resort. And when you're with a small team at a small resort, you end up doing everything. So it gave me some great hands-on skills. I like to tell people that the success, I think, is your ability to adapt to any type of working condition, to know that you have to wear lots of hats. As talking to everybody here at a small nonprofit, you all wear lots of hats to succeed in fulfilling the mission, to leave your ego at home and to know that we are all in this together, and we have good days and we have a lot of bad days. And so I just feel that the success is just that team camaraderie, all working together for a similar goal. And so for me, it was from education right out into the field, working with kids, to working with Jean-Michel. So it's been a great stepping stone. And now I'm back with Island Packers, back out at the Channel Islands and seeing some great success and not being there for over 20 years. So good full circle.
That's great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Samantha. Good luck. Reach out anytime.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah. There's boat space on Santa Cruz Island if you want to come with me tomorrow. There's lots of space on the boat trip tomorrow. So, I mean, feel free to come out on Island Packers anytime.
That's great. Yeah. I'm actually trying to volunteer, but with COVID, it's been hard. So we'll see.
I know. Don't give up. Okay. Don't give up. I just got the email today. My son gets to go back to high school at the end of the month. So I'm very excited. Wow. I think we've got through the worst of it. So no.
Oh, that's great.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you for sharing your life with us, really, and your passion. I know we all enjoyed it, and this is being recorded, so everyone has a chance to, whoever couldn't make it, if you know of anyone, and Holly, you're welcome to share this, and Danielle Lyons, you're welcome to share it, and it'll be on our YouTube channel shortly, in the next couple days.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have another question for you, Holly. As Laura alluded to, I'm such a fan of your work, and I am awestruck that you got to dive with Dr. Sylvia Earle. I think I've read her book like 3 times in a row during COVID. Got a little obsessed there. That's so cool. But my question for you was, you mentioned your fear of sharks and how you finally got to dive with them. And I noticed you dove with at least 2 of them in the footage. How many other species did you dive with, and what was it like? Did you just go straight into free diving? Did you cage dive? Did you wear any gear? I mean, I'm fascinated because I think we were all a little traumatized by Jaws growing up.
I think so too. A great question. I appreciate that very much, Cassie. Laura told me of your great empathy, so thank you for all that you do. Any way I could, be supportive of the work you do. To overcome my fear of sharks really was just to dive in the kelp forest off the Channel Islands and off the coast here. So one of the other jobs I had right out of college was working at the Sea Center in Santa Barbara, where we have horned sharks and swell sharks in our little tank. It's a much bigger facility today, but when I worked in the Sea Center in the early 90s on Stearns Wharf in Santa Barbara, it's a pretty small place. But we treated the sharks like our own babies, and I just had the opportunity to learn about some of our smaller rocky reef shark species. And in fact, in our local waters, we really have over 15 different species of sharks. So as soon as I really learned about the diversity of sharks, and then I also understood the endangerment of sharks around the world from our shark finning and the impact that that's having on most global shark populations, especially the offshore species like oceanic whitetips. I really became a huge shark advocate, and on every dive, wherever we were, I was hoping to see sharks. I have never been underwater with great white sharks, so I've wanted to be, hopefully, maybe in the comforts of a cage, like at Guadalupe Island off of Mexico. I've worked with a cinematographer here in Montecito, Harry Rabin, and doing some of the work he's doing with the juvenile white sharks off of Summerlin and Carpinteria and some of the ID work they're doing. So I've seen a lot of beautiful juvenile white sharks right offshore here. But I haven't been underwater with the great white shark. But the great hammerhead is similar in size. Their mouth is much different, so they don't even eat marine animals, so there's really no fear of people. I think it's with an understanding and the realization how few people have even seen sharks or have an incident with sharks, and how few people die from sharks. It has given me a sense that we really need to protect these top apex predators in the ocean. Because as these populations are dwindling around the world, we don't even really know. The scientists have no idea the long-term ramifications on these ocean ecosystems without these top predators. So we need our sharks. And I know I'm talking to a room full of surfers here. And every time we're out there, you just, that dark, murky water, and you hear the music of Jaws in the back of your head. I ocean swim off of Carpinteria. I get it. I totally get it. But you just have to look at the statistics. I mean, think of the millions of people that are in the ocean every single day, and how often do we hear about a shark attack? So it's to your advantage to continue to learn about sharks and to protect them, for sure. Great research with Dr. Chris Lowe in the Shark Lab down at Long Beach State University. And I think you have somebody from there I saw who's going to speak at your meeting. So learn all that you can about local sharks, because we need our sharks for sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before we end the
Holly,
meeting?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Chase.
Hello. First of all, thank you. I thought it was amazing. I mean, this is my first meeting actually, and I'm kind of astounded at the whole process and the guest speakers here. But my question was, invasive species has always interested me for some reason, such as boar on land. Is there anything similar to that in the ocean that you kind of have to control the population for?
Absolutely. We have a couple species of invasive algae right now that's directly impacting the kelp.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of these invasive species travel in the ballast of big ships. And we know in the Santa Barbara Channel, we get a tremendous amount of shipping traffic. Most of these ships going down to Los Angeles. In fact, 80–90% of the goods that we use on a daily basis comes with big ships across the ocean. So that's a big concern, invasive species in the ocean for sure. And once again, most of it's transported, it's at a larval phase. So most of invertebrates and algae kind of have a floating swing period of their life. So it's pretty easy for them to be dispersed over great distances if given an opportunity to be transported by a big ship. So I think coming to mind right off the top of my head, I think algae, different species of algae is one of the biggest threats in our local ecosystem here.
That's awesome. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Any other questions?
I've got one.
Oh, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I saw some orcas off of Port Hueneme, January 22nd. There was like 2 males and 2 to 4 females. They're only like 50 yards offshore. And it looked like their dorsal fins on the males were only about 4 foot tall, not 6 foot. But do you think that would be because they were young, or is there a species of orcas that have smaller dorsal fin?
Most likely young orcas. Most of our orcas that we see are the transients, and they're pretty similar in the shape and the size. So you probably saw transient orcas, and you probably saw a couple younger males. So when they're fully grown, that dorsal fin can be almost 6 feet tall. In fact, when males are pretty young, they almost look more curvature like a female. So it's not until they're later in their 8, 9, 10 years old does it really sprout to be a very triangular dorsal fin. Orcas live in different groups around the world. We did a 2-hour special on killer whales with Jean-Michel. It's his favorite animal in the ocean are killer whales. So we did film orcas in Canada and Norway, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand. And they do live in different ecotypes dependent on their favorite food. So pretty much our orcas here are marine mammal eating orcas that feed on seals and sea lions. They're even successful in catching a fast moving common dolphin. And they definitely target the young gray whale calves as they make their northern migration. So one of the best places to see that predation is up in Monterey in April. So our transient orcas have a very distinct 6-foot dorsal fin is probably what you saw off of Port Hueneme. If you have a good photograph, I'm happy to give you the email of the person to share it with, because she loves collecting data of any and all orcas that are sighted off our coast here.
I didn't take any pictures, but I'd be glad to tell them what I saw. Like they got a little involved in a feeding frenzy with the birds. Yeah. Yeah, I've only seen them from my balcony here in Port Hueneme. 11.5 years I've been here. One other time, that time there was about 20 females, and they seemed to be chasing a bunch of dolphins, going after them. And I forget how many males there was. That was about 8 years ago. They were a little, they're further off. They're about 2 miles out, I think, or so.
Oh, cool. Well, if you just Google the Killer Whale Project of California, that'll kind of pop up. The 2 main biologists, Nancy Black up in Monterey, and then Alyssa Yaniger, who I mentioned, who's down in the Los Angeles area. So they collaboratively work to best understand the orcas off of California.
Yeah, what was the group again? Monterey Bay Aquarium or something?
It's just the Killer Whale Project.
Oh, Killer Whale Project.
Killer Whale Project, yeah.
Killer Whale Project. Okay.
All right, I think we're running a little long, so I think if we have any, which is fine, if we have any other questions, let's ask them, and then I think we're going to close out the meeting. But this was wonderful. Thank you so much, and I'm really grateful that you're local. I'm really happy that we have you right in our backyard. Thank you.
Or I do have a question. This is Bob Davidson.
Hey, Bob.
I was asking our expert tonight, what are the rules with regard to ships traveling inside or outside up the Channel Islands? Because we see a lot of the container ships, and we always wonder what the rules are that control them and why they don't try or go upstream on the other side of the islands, outside of the islands.
Bob, that's a great question. Within the Santa Barbara Channel, if you look at any nautical chart, you'll see that ships have to stay within the designated shipping lanes between Ventura and Anacapa Island. Really is the most narrow gap. Really between Port Hueneme and Anacapa is only a 9-mile gap. So what we have is we have a northbound shipping lane that's closest to us. Then we have a mile in between, and then we have a southbound shipping lane closer to the island. So they have to stay in that designated shipping lane when traveling in the Santa Barbara Channel. They guess, I think on average, between 15 to 30 big ships on a daily basis. It varies. But back in the mid 2000s, by 2007, when there was a lot of documented ship strikes and blue whales and fin whales that were killed and coming into port, these big ships with the big whale over the bulbous of their bow, did the National Marine Sanctuary and other agencies try to work with the different shipping agencies to slow down the ships and even consider having the ships go on the outside of the 4 northern Channel Islands. It still is in discussion today, and there's a great research project going on up in UC Santa Barbara where they're trying to use some acoustic sounding of the whales to better alert the ships to slow down. Right now, the ships just travel at full speed, but it's an honorary, or they could, decide individually if they want to slow down, but it's a recommended procedure for them to slow down when they come in the Santa Barbara Channel, especially in the summer months. There's kind of a hot spot where blue whales, minke whales, fin whales, humpback whales feed off the west end of Santa Cruz Island. That's right in the middle of the southbound shipping lanes. So there is a lot of great research that's been done, and really great citizen scientists such as us. When we're out on the Island Packer boats, we log all of our whale sightings, so the researchers could see where we are seeing the whales in relation to the shipping traffic. That is definitely one of the big threats to the success of great whales making their comeback here off of Southern California, is the potential strike of the big ships. So I hope I answered that question. I'm happy to give you a link to some specifics. But just know here we live so close to Los Angeles, San Pedro, Long Beach, San Pedro. That's where most of our goods that come in from overseas is coming in, and a lot of them do come right down through the Santa Barbara Channel.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Holly. Really great evening. Danielle, love your resin artwork.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the awesome presentation, Holly.
Thank you, Danielle. You too. I appreciate it. Nice to be in your company.
Likewise.
Happy International Women's Month, ladies. Great job. Amazing job. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of your evening, everyone.
Yeah, you too, everybody.
All
Have a
right.
great week.
Good night.